Life has a way of changing suddenly. One moment, you're holding on. The next moment, everything you depended on is gone. This is not a story about luck. It's not a story about overnight miracles. This is a story about faith, friendship, and starting over when life strips everything away. This is the story of Joan and Jody. Joan once believed her life would look a certain way. She was married. She dreamed of children. She imagined laughter filling her home. But life had other plans. Miscarriage after miscarriage took more than her unborn children. They took her joy, her confidence, and eventually, her marriage. Grief settled into her home like a permanent guest. Her husband couldn't understand the pain, and instead of standing with her, he walked away. Joan didn't just lose a marriage, she lost her sense of worth. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Jody had always been different. She believed in hard work, in independence, in handling life on her own. God? That was something other people leaned on. Faith, to her, felt like a comfort people created when life didn't make sense. Then sickness came. Jody's body weakened. She missed work, bills piled up, and before she could recover, she was evicted. One illness, one missed paycheck, one knock on the door, and just like that, everything changed. Neither woman imagined this chapter. Two friends, no stable place to live, no clear plan, but they made a decision. Instead of sleeping on the streets, they checked into shelters. It wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, but it was safer. And for Joan, it felt purposeful. At night, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and uncertainty, Joan would pray, quietly, humbly, sometimes with words and sometimes with tears. Jody would watch her, and one night she finally asked, "Why do you keep believing God is still with us?" Joan answered honestly, "Because I believe sometimes God changes our position before he changes our future." Jody didn't understand. "If God is real," she asked, "why would he let us be here?" Joan didn't have all the answers. She only had faith. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Joan never forced faith on Jody. She shared it gently. She talked about Joseph, who was thrown into a pit before rising to purpose. She talked about Job, who lost everything, yet refused to curse God. "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you." Jeremiah 29:11. Jody listened, skeptical, confused, but listening. Eventually, they started going to church together. Jody didn't sing, didn't pray, didn't raise her hands. She just sat. But Joan thanked God for the smallest things. A meal, a safe bed, strength for another day. Slowly, something began to soften in Jody's heart. Not belief, yet, but curiosity. One evening, sitting on the edge of a borrowed bed, the two friends made a decision. They would start over. They enrolled to become certified nursing assistants, CNA. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy. They studied in shelters, worked long shifts, pushed through exhaustion. There were days they wanted to quit, days their bodies were tired, days their minds felt overwhelmed. But they reminded each other, do not despise these small beginnings. Zechariah 4:10, eventually they saved enough for a small one-bedroom apartment. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. A door they could lock, a space they could call home. And something shifted. After a year and a half working as CNAs, they realized something powerful. They were capable of more. So they took another leap. They enrolled in nursing school. Full-time. While still working full-time, the pressure was heavy. Late nights, early mornings, tears, doubt. But now Jody began doing something new. She started thanking God for passing a test, for strength during a shift, for simply making it through the day. Joan watched her friend transform, and her own faith deepened. "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Philippians 4:13 healing began, not just financially, but emotionally. Old trauma loosened its grip. Shame began to fade. Hope took root. They finished nursing school, together. The same women who once stood in shelters now stood confident, licensed nurses. They bought a two-family home. They met life partners who loved and respected them. Jody became a mother of 2 children, openly praising God for the smallest blessings. Joan became a mother of 3, her faith unshakable. "He restores my soul." Psalm 23:3. Their story wasn't about instant miracles. It was about faith in darkness, friendship that refused to quit, and God is using a change in the environment to unlock purpose. Joan often says, sometimes God doesn't change the situation right away. He changes the position. Jody smiles and adds, sometimes he lets you lose everything, just to show you who he really is. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35. If you're watching this and you're in a hard place, your current chapter is not your final one.